Chapter 21. Burn the Bridge. Even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23, verse 4. After James had offered her the comfort she hadn't known how to ask for, but desperately needed, Ruthie remained in the stillness of the cottage a little longer. Something had shifted in her, not loudly, but deeply. Without a word, she rose. Her movements were slow, deliberate, but no longer heavy with dread. She crossed the small room, unzipped the duffel she'd left untouched for days, and began to pack, not with panic, not with haste, just a quiet resolve. She folded the blanket James had wrapped around her and laid it gently on the bed. Her hands lingered there for a moment. Then she took one final glance at the space, the worn bookshelf, the lamp with its frayed pull cord, the timber walls that had both sheltered. And then she stepped out into the cool night, bag slung over one shoulder, James waiting at the garden path with Bear walking faithfully beside him. They walked to the main house in silence, their footsteps soft over the gravel. The moon hung low, casting pale light on the farmhouse veranda, and the wind had stilled, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Inside, the house was warm, lived in, and welcoming without needing to try. James moved ahead of her with quiet intention, turning on a hallway light, then stepping into the spare room. He didn't speak much. Instead, he busied himself with small acts of care, smoothing the old quilt, adjusting the pillows with practiced hands, and tugging a soft woolen blanket from the cedar chest at the foot of the bed. His touch was gentle, his pace unhurried, like he was tending to more than just a room. Ruthie stood in the doorway, her bag strap clenched tightly in her hand. Her eyes swept the room, framed photographs on the dresser, and a worn Bible resting on the bedside table.
This was Ellie's room.
James said gently, breaking the silence.
I haven't changed much. Hope that's okay?
His voice held no sorrow, only a quiet reverence. Like Ellie still lived there in some small way, and maybe always would. Ruthie stepped forward, her throat thick. She reached out to trace her fingers along the edge of the dresser, pausing at the photo of a young woman with kind eyes and a smile that looked uncannily like James's.
"It's more than okay,"
she whispered. James gave a small nod, eyes soft.
I reckon you would have both gotten on well.
A beat passed. Ruthie blinked against the weight of the moment. He turned toward the door then.
I'll just be in the lounge, take your time, and when you're ready to come out and we can have some tea.
Ruthie hesitated. Then, as he reached for the handle, she said quietly,
"James,
He stopped, turned.
thank you for being here with me. I don't know what I would have done without you."
The silence that followed was tender, sacred,
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
he replied. And with that he stepped out, leaving the door open just enough for the light to spill through. Ruthie placed her bag down on the floor, then sat on the edge of the bed. She ran her hand over the quilt, over the soft memory of someone who had once called this room home. And as the night deepened, for the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't feel watched or caged. She just felt held. Later, the fire in the lounge crackled low, casting long shadows across the floorboards. Ruthie sat curled in the corner of the couch, legs tucked beneath her. Bear lay across her feet, solid, warm, constant. James sat nearby, elbows resting on his knees, his gaze fixed on the flickering flames. His mind churned with one thought: how to protect Ruthie. It was all he could think about.
About earlier,
He began. Ruthie didn't look up.
I think we should speak to the police.
James said, his voice low, cautious, like he was placing something fragile between them.
You don't have to say much, but what happened at the shop?
He hesitated, jaw tightening.
It crossed a line.
Ruthie didn't answer. The only sound in the room was the soft crackle of the fire and the gentle shift of the logs as they settled. James glanced over at her, reading the silence not as resistance but as reckoning.
I remember how you were at the train station.
He continued, softer now.
Back in the city, you weren't ready then. And maybe you're still not. But I can't not offer. Not after what happened today.
Still, she said nothing, but her fingers curled slightly into the blanket draped across her lap. Her shoulders rose with a shaky breath, and then, finally, a small nod. Almost imperceptible, but it was there.
I think I need to.
She whispered, voice thin as smoke. James exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding that breath since she first walked through the cottage door. Relief flickered across his features, quiet and steady.
I'll take you first thing tomorrow.
He said. And in the hush that followed, something settled, not resolved, not yet, but set in motion. That night, Ruthie didn't sleep. Instead, she sat curled on the woven rug in the guest room, Ellie's room, her knees drawn close, Bear's heavy head resting in her lap. One hand moved absently through his fur, over and over, like she was trying to ground herself to something real. The room was dim but not dark, lit by the faint flicker of firelight trailing down the hallway from the fireplace. She stared at the door, unblinking, unsure. Around 2 a.m., the weight in her chest finally pushed her upright. She crossed to the wardrobe with quiet steps and pulled out the duffel, the same one she'd clutched when she ran, the same one that had sat untouched since she arrived. It still smelled faintly of antiseptic, of fear, of escape, of not belonging anywhere long enough to unpack. She zipped it slowly. Bear stirred, lifting his head, and let out a low, questioning whine. Ruthie paused, met his eyes in the stillness. And what she saw there, steady, sad, knowing. When dawn finally crept across the paddocks, it came slow and soft, spilling light over dew-drenched grass like it was afraid to wake the world too fast. Inside the cottage, Ruthie moved like a shadow, wordless, controlled, the duffel slung over her shoulder. Each step echoed in her chest like a drumbeat she couldn't silence. James was already outside. He sat on the edge of the veranda, coffee in hand, the paper folded and untouched beside him. His flannel hung open over a worn tee, boots planted firm on the timber slats like he'd been sitting there all night, waiting. He looked up when the screen door creaked open. Didn't speak, just watched her, quiet, steady, as she stepped into the light. Ruthie froze a few feet from him, her hand clenched tighter around the strap of her bag. Her mouth opened, then shut again. Finally, she found her voice.
I have to go.
She said, fragile, fractured. James straightened, his brow knitting with something that wasn't anger, but something close to grief.
Where are you going?
I can't stay here, James. Not after what happened.
Her voice cracked.
I thought I could stay. But Dylan, he found me. And I can't risk anyone else getting hurt.
The words tumbled out like they'd been caged for hours, brittle and breathless. James looked at her like he'd just been dropped into freezing water, disoriented, hurt. His coffee slipped from the arm of the chair and landed with a dull thud on the floorboards. Forgotten,
You're not putting anything on us.
he said, his voice thick, rough around the edges.
We chose to care, and we want to care about you.
Ruthie stood at the edge of the porch like it was a cliff.
I need to go.
She said again, trembling now.
Ruthie.
She looked away. Couldn't bear his eyes on her. Her shoulders pulled back, tight, rigid, like that posture was the only thing keeping her from falling apart.
I didn't choose this for you.
She whispered.
You didn't have to.
James said.
That's what caring for someone is.
She flinched, not from the word, but from how deeply it landed.
If I stay,
she replied.
I'll ruin it. I'll be the reason Bear gets hurt. Or Naomi. Or you.
James took a step toward her, then stopped himself. Hands open, careful,
You can't leave.
he said, pain slipping into the cracks of his voice.
You can't do this to me. I mean, to us. We care about you.
She shook her head. Tears slipped past her lashes, fast and hot.
I don't want to hurt anyone.
She said, choking on the truth.
You're not, Ruthie.
He said.
But leaving, Ruthie, that's what will hurt.
She turned her face away, lips trembling.
I care about you.
James said, and this time the words cracked open something raw. She stilled.
I know you're scared, and you have every reason to be, but you're not alone anymore. You don't have to protect us by running. Let us protect you for once. Let us stand with you.
Her breath hitched,
You don't understand.
her voice raising.
He doesn't stop. If I stay, he'll come back. He always does. And next time.
She couldn't finish. The weight of the memory was too much.
Next time someone won't walk away?
James took another step, heart pounding, desperate to stop her from walking away.
Ruthie, wait.
He said, reaching toward her. His hand hung in the space between them, hesitant, trembling. A bridge made of hope and fear. She flinched, not at him, at the ghosts that lived in the shape of a man's outstretched hand, at memories that didn't know the difference. He froze, hand dropping, eyes wide with apology.
I'm sorry.
He said softly, lifting his hands in surrender, palms open, not to hold, just to show he wouldn't. But she was already slipping away, her gaze clouded with something unreachable.
I can't.
She said. From behind the screen door, Bear let out a low whine and pawed once at the timber, his own quiet protest. Even he could feel what was being torn. James stepped back as if giving her space might bring her closer.
I'm sorry.
Ruthie said again, softer now, no longer shaking, just emptied. Then she turned, duffel in hand, shoulders hunched, determined. Every step down the path felt like a thread snapping, unraveling something sacred they hadn't even finished weaving. James wanted so badly to run after her. Every instinct screamed to chase her down that gravel path, to pull her into his arms, to say something, anything that might anchor her to this place, to him. But his boots stayed rooted to the boards beneath him, legs stiff with restraint, heart pounding against the walls of his chest like it might shatter. He knew that chasing her would only drive her further away, that touching her now, even gently, would feel like a threat. That pressing her with words she wasn't ready to receive would undo every inch of safety they'd built together. So he stood there, torn between the ache of wanting to protect her and the truth that sometimes love meant letting someone walk away. His hands curled into fists at his sides, helpless, his jaw clenched, his eyes burned. There were 1,000 things he could have said, 100 ways he could have begged, but none of them would have mattered. She wasn't running from him. She was running from the war still waging inside her, and he couldn't fight that battle for her. Still. The word escaped him, raw, broken, cracked straight from the center of his chest.
Ruthie!
She didn't turn, didn't pause. But he swore, for just a moment. Her shoulders trembled, like the sound of his voice had caught something deep inside her, like maybe, even as she walked away, some part of her wanted to stay. But she kept walking, and James stood in the doorway long after she was gone, the morning sun warming his face as the ache in his chest settled in like an old wound reopening.
Thank you for listening to this chapter of Healing on the Land. If this story has touched your heart, I'd love for you to come join me for the next chapter. You can find it here on this channel. If you'd like to support more Christian storytelling, you can purchase the full book or make a donation using the link in the description. Your support, no matter the size, helps us to continue writing stories of faith, healing, and hope. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. May God bless you, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.